Hi, and welcome to College Planning Untangled, where we try, Bobby, to simplify the lives of our college age families and present interesting facts about what families are going through during this time and try to just demystify some of the stuff that, happens around this age group. How are you doing today, Bobby?
I'm doing just great. Yeah, always fun to talk about the Gen Z community and like what's going on with them. That's as Gen Xers, it's hard for us to really relate exactly, and so it's good to know these things.
Well, it is. And I'll tell you today what we're going to talk about is a study out of the Gallup organization. They're renowned, I'd say it all the
Mhm.
research firm out of Omaha, Nebraska, and have been around. You see them a lot, like for political campaigns and that kind of stuff. But
Mhm.
they do tons of research. A great resource for me for sure. But what they're talking about in this particular research is how happy is Gen Z? And I put up here, Gen Z is from age 12 to 27.
Mhm.
Um, and what's cool about the research is it really kind of talks about that Gen Zs are fairly happy.
Yeah,
They're
surprisingly happy compared to some other generations. Yeah.
right. And I'm going to put what year they were born to so that people can see that. Um, yeah, they're pretty happy. But obviously, what interested me on this whole conversation is that a lot of the unhappiness that they experience is when they're not feeling fulfilled in their work. So I know
Absolutely.
we're going to show a couple of the screenshots so that we can talk through.
Yeah, let's pull that up. Okay, so let's see here. So here's I think okay, so something I've seen here that right, just starting with the idea that when students feel like they have purpose, right, then they are fairly happy, but it declines as you age, right?
Right. Look at 18 to 20, all the way to 26, right?
Mhm.
But that drastic drop happens around that 17 to 18 timeframe,
Mhm.
which I find really interesting. And, I'm going to tell you, Bobby, that believe it or not, Gallup did not invite me to be a part of this research.
Right.
um, but having worked with kids at this age,
Mhm.
I know that, their feeling of purpose is important to them. And at this time frame is when they're thinking about what am I going to do with my life, right? People are done taking care of me. Now I got to start taking care of myself. And I look at this and I know from talking to kids about career that it's really important for them that they're doing something that they feel excited about and they feel like has purpose and they're purposeful, right? That
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, what I'm seeing here is that as they go through college, they're feeling less like they have significance and purpose in their lives, and that may be because many of them are just, not really seeing how this is gonna fit into a career or what their career is gonna be. They don't feel like they're getting trained for a career where they'd be happy, right?
And I think a lot of it, Bobby, is helping them to talk through and have conversations, more meaningful conversations about what type of work is going to give you that sense of purpose
Mhm.
and significance and what role do you play in it? Because a lot of times, they don't know what they don't know.
Right.
They see the regular jobs out there. They know what their mom and dad the title of their role is, but they don't know what they do.
Right.
So I think too, they're just searching and going, well, where do I fit in?
Mhm.
And I think the more conversations we have around this idea of career and helping them find that purpose is going to be huge in helping them feel happier.
Yeah, and that's what's I think then we can look at this, like, okay, so here's the specific thing that I found really interesting, right? Is that the ones who went to college are more engaged.
Yeah, and guys, anybody out there that's listening to this wanting to comment on it, these are facts, okay?
Mhm.
Because I get a lot of people going, you don't have to go to college to be happy. No, you don't, right? We
Right.
get that.
Sure.
But what we're seeing here is that, and by the way, it's the yellow. They're currently enrolled in
Mhm.
post-secondary education, and the dark blue, and then this teal color.
Yeah,
Um,
the far right is you've got your degree, you're out, you're working, right?
yes,
And you
yes.
can see those are the highest. Yeah.
Yes, where people feel like they do have purpose. But let's talk about that, Bobby. I look at this and I go, okay, at age 18, if you're going to college,
Mhm.
I can see like that you would feel this momentum of, okay, I'm doing this for a reason. So I do think that there's probably some reason why those numbers are higher for the kids
Mhm.
18 to 20 something or 18 to what, 22. Um, because I think they're still on this momentum of I'm moving towards something.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
However, you can still see that there's that feeling of, but I'm not quite sure what I'm doing, right?
Right. And I think that's what kind of comes back to the thing we discuss a lot, which is absolutely you do not need to go to college to be happy, but you do need to to find a career, find a thing to do that gives you purpose and makes you feel valuable. And so this is including, a lot of data about people who just got out of high school and didn't go to college and they don't have anything purposeful. They don't like the career they're in. They maybe feel stuck in whatever they're doing because they didn't have as many options or whatever. But I think that's what it really comes out to is like I think what this is saying is if you're not going to go to college, you better have a plan for something, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, yeah, at the end of the day, it still comes back to let's help them figure out, what it is that they want to do and that will give them purpose
Mhm.
regarding a career. So,
Absolutely.
yeah. So, and I'm going to play around with this some more and spend some more time on it. But it just came across my desk this morning and I just thought it was so interesting, that number one, encouraging that there is a lot of happiness in Gen Z because sometimes you wonder when you're watching the news or
Right.
listening to my TikToks and everything else that I watch. But so I was encouraged by that. But I want you to also look at this, that the numbers, the 68, 67%,
Hmm.
these are Gen Zs that strongly agree and somewhat agree,
Hmm.
right? So there's still a lot of kids, and
Yeah.
there's no kids in my mind, that don't
Yeah.
strongly agree,
Absolutely.
right? So that are not engaged with their work. And by the way, you've heard me say this stat before. Gallup has done research on all people working, and we're finding that 70% of all the workers in America are
Hmm.
not engaged with their work. 70%.
Yeah.
So you look at these numbers and you go, wow, that means it just keeps going down.
Right. Yeah. But it also, I mean, it is, I would not have predicted that 67% of Gen Z college grads right now are feeling like that what they do is important. I'm glad to hear that. That's really cool.
Absolutely.
you
Oh my
know,
gosh.
but it is, and it may be because this generation is more aware that and we've talked about it so much that they should keep choosing jobs until they find one where they're fulfilled, right? They're more committed to finding something and being fulfilled, and they are more willing to walk away from a job
You know
if they're
what?
not.
You're absolutely right. So hopefully that 70% will
Mhm.
get better that I quoted earlier, that
Yeah.
more people will feel engaged because you're right. This age group, they're willing to go, "Pfft, you're done. I'm gone. I'm tapping out.
Yep.
When they do get into this situation where they don't feel like people appreciate them
Yeah.
or like they're getting something out of their work. Yeah.
Yeah. Wish I had been like that. All right. So let's look at
Right.
the third thing. So let's see. This way. It's this way. All right. So let me make that bigger. Okay. This is the just, engagement, right? And that's just that same thing, right? But you can see that range, right?
Yeah. That very unhappy is the orange. Very
Mhm.
unhappy, somewhat unhappy, or kind of in the middle, up to the 60. And yeah,
Yes, I mean a lot. So I mean that's a lot that do, but there's that third down there that do not feel motivated, right? And but so I think the point is that that work is engaging 2/3 or so, or 3/5 of the Gen Z, and that's important. I think that's just the message, right? Is like that Gen Z is surprisingly happier than I would have predicted and surprisingly more engaged in work. But in particular, that one big piece of information is the ones who went to college are on average way, way, way more engaged and happy in what they're doing. And
Right. And feeling like they have purpose.
yeah,
Yeah. And I just want to throw in the last takeaway to me is we have an opportunity, I think, as parents and educators to help in that area and say, okay, how do we help you find work that's more purposeful? So
absolutely.
having those conversations at home, for parents and, obviously, I love this subject because I do work with kids to help them figure out a career path. And one of the biggest factors I talk about, Bobby, is let's start with happiness and we
Mhm.
will find you the money. And,
Right.
and listen, I talk about this all the time. I'm very frugal. Money's important to me. And, I honor that with my clients, but the happiness factor is more important in my mind,
Mhm.
to at least start there. And then at least we can, weigh out the facts and go, okay, you have an opportunity to be happy here. You have an opportunity to get rich here and
Right.
somewhere in between, right? But you have a choice now. So at least we're giving them a choice. So
Absolutely. I mean, I just think, one of the pieces of advice we're always giving is parents, you got to talk to your kids and talk about these things and don't just always be talking about today's, laundry chores list, right?
yeah,
It's looking toward the future, but it's hard to know how to talk about the future. It's good to do it, but that's why what you do is so important because a lot of people don't have the language for how to draw that out of kids and figure out what would actually make us happy. I mean, especially for me as a Gen Z, I mean, as a Gen Xer, like it's just not even in my vocabulary to talk about what makes you happy at work, right? And so it would be hard, like you have to really consciously say, okay, no, what would actually engage you? What would motivate you? Not just this job would be stable, right? Because jobs aren't stable. Like
well, no, right?
we thought they would be back when we were kids, and they aren't.
And it's getting worse,
Yeah, you're out for yourself. The company is not going to be loyal to you. It's just not going to be. So you got to find your thing. You got to make yourself valuable, and the way to make yourself valuable is find something that makes you happy and you have passion for it, and doing it. I
Absolutely.
think that's the whole story.
Yeah. All right. Well, it's interesting. If we find some more cool tidbits in here, I would love to talk more about this subject. But other than that, let's get on with our day and just be happy that kids are happier than we thought.
Absolutely. And I mean, these are the things like always feel free to contact us. You can contact both of us on contact forms through the website. This is what we love discussing. And I think this is the thing, what both of us are helping kids get on those pathways to find the things that are really going to give them meaning and happiness. That's what it's about. All right. Well, we'll talk again next.